Hello everyone and welcome to Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, Monday, February 12th. If you're joining me for the very first time, this is how today's video will be structured. Typically, I go over a recap of the prior day picks, but since we have not had a video since Friday, we'll not be doing that today. We'll get straight into the injuries. It's a 9-game main slate on both sites. There's 10 NBA games in total. There is the Clippers game at the very end of the night, which is a lot later than all the other games, so that one's not on the main slate for today. But then after that, we'll get moved over to both DraftKings and FanDuel and go over my core picks for today. So that's going to be one player at each position. So point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. But without further ado, we'll get into those injuries and play for tonight's slate overall. So we're going to start off with the Philadelphia 76ers. They are still without Nick Batum, Robert Covington, Joel Embiid, and DeAnthony Melton. They did recently get Kyle Lowry as well, and he's not going to be playing at this point in time. And then we got Mo Bamba listed as questionable due to a knee injury. We'll see whether or not he ultimately ends up playing tonight or not. If he ultimately ends up getting ruled out, then obviously Paul Reed gets bigger minutes just in general. And then you kind of see maybe it's Kenneth Lofton Jr. getting the backup center minutes. Maybe it's KJ Martin. Maybe it's somebody else. And then on the Cleveland Cavaliers side, we got Ty Jerome and Tristan Thompson both out once again, so no changes there whatsoever. And then for the Pacers, we got Jalen Smith out, and then Tyrese Halliburton listed as questionable once again due to his hamstring injury. Do assume that he ultimately does end up playing tonight once again, though. Then for the Charlotte Hornets side, LaMelo Ball and Mark Williams both out once again. Cody Martin listed as probable due to his knee injury, so should be playing in tonight's game overall. If he were to miss, then could open up a little bit of value on this Hornets team overall. And then we move over to the Chicago Bulls without Patrick Williams once again. Alex Caruso listed as questionable due to a toe injury. Did play a ton of minutes in their most recent game, so I'm not too worried about him for tonight overall. And then we have Kobe White and Torrey Craig both listed as probable once again for tonight's game. On the Atlanta Hawks side, we have Clint Capella, Gaye, and Wesley Matthews all listed as out once again tonight. Patty Mills is technically listed as doubtful for tonight's game due to illness, and then Bruno Fernando, I believe, is also dealing with an illness, is listed as questionable. Both of them did miss their most recent game as well. And then we move down to the San Antonio Spurs, just Marcus Morris out at this point in time. Toronto Raptors essentially all the way healthy since Noel is on their G League team anyways. And then for the New York Knicks, we got OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson all out once again. Isaiah Hartenstein is listed as questionable to play tonight, so we'll see whether or not he's ultimately good to go or not. Obviously, if he's not good to go, we're probably just going to see Precious Achiuwa slide over to that center spot. And they probably start Bojan Bogdanovic for tonight's game overall. Jericho Sims is listed as probable due to his illness, and then Dwayne Washington's down in the G League, so we're not too worried about him at this point in time. For the Houston Rockets, we got Tari Eason, we got Fred VanVleet, and Cam Whitmore all out for tonight's game. And then Alfred Sengun is listed as questionable to play with the back injury, did miss their most recent game. And if I remember correctly, Jabari Smith just kind of slid over to the center position in that game, which would make him look a little bit more interesting, as well as Jeff Green. Then we move down to the Denver Nuggets. Cam Carr's out once again. He's been out all season. And then Michael Porter Jr. and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope both listed as questionable to play. Both did miss their most recent games. Caldwell-Pope is dealing with a hamstring injury. I believe it's a knee injury for Michael Porter Jr. If I had to guess, Michael Porter Jr. probably plays tonight. Caldwell-Pope a little bit more up in the air at this point in time. Then for the Milwaukee Bucks side, we have Chris Middleton out once again, and then both Damian Lillard and Giannis are listed as probable to play for tonight's game overall. Then we move over to the New Orleans Pelicans. Dyson Daniels is out once again tonight. Cody Zeller and Zion Williamson both listed as questionable to play. Zion has pretty much played for the most part. I think he did miss their most recent game with that foot injury, so we'll see whether or not he's ultimately good to go tonight or not, but would assume that he is ultimately playing at this point in time. And then on the Memphis Grizzlies side, they got Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, Jake LaRavia, and Marcus Smart all out once again, and then Zaire Williams and Derrick Rose both listed as doubtful for tonight's game overall. So kind of getting back to probably a similar starting lineup to what we see here, which is kind of something they've been rolling out in more recent games just in general. And then for the Washington Wizards, we have Isaiah Livers out tonight. We did see Marvin Bagley return and enter that starting lineup for them in their most recent game. We'll see whether or not he gets more minutes or not, because he's been dealing with a back injury but only played like 15 minutes in his return. And then for the Dallas Mavericks, we got Dante Exum and Derek Lively both out once again. And then Maxi Kleber, Kyrie Irving, and Luka Doncic all listed as probable to play once again tonight. So we would assume that all three of them do end up playing tonight as well. And then we move down to the Golden State Warriors, which is the last game on the main slate. They are without Chris Paul, and then Guy Santos is listed as questionable to play. I believe he was available in their most recent game, but didn't play off the bench, although he had been playing decent minutes here and there off their bench for them just in general as kind of like a high-energy forward, but we'll see if he has a bigger role on this team, if he plays tonight or not. And then for the Utah Jazz, we got Otto Porter Jr. and Bryce Sensabaugh. Both of this is questionable tonight. I don't really expect either one to be in the rotation either way, so not going to be a big impact for this team overall. And then we move over to that last game of the night. That is the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Clippers. This game is not on the slate because it starts an hour and a half later than all the other games. For the Timberwolves, Jalen Clark's out once again, and then Jay McDaniels listed as questionable to play. I believe he's dealing with a finger injury at this point in time. And then for the Clippers side, they appear to be all the way healthy at this point in time. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on all the injuries in play for tonight's slate overall. As always, if there's any updates that do come out throughout the day, I will be posting them down in the comments, as well as the starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the night. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks over there. So I'm going to start off by saying it's kind of an interesting day just in general for core picks. These could very much change throughout the day. If we do get some value, that does open up. But I'm going to start off at the point guard position. And honestly, I'm not sure how to pronounce this guy's first name, but Micic, he's kind of this backup guard that did come over to them in that Oklahoma City Thunder trade. He played 26 minutes in their most recent game. He played pretty well in that game as well. I believe it was 18 points and 9 assists off the bench. $3,900, you're looking for 19, 20 points out. It's a pace-up spot versus the Pacers tonight. This is a guy that was a very, very well-regarded European player. Just didn't quite get the minutes for Oklahoma City. You know, Charlotte is not really playing for anything at this point in time. So he's a guy that they probably want to see kind of what he's got and if he could be a part of their future, although, you know, he's a little bit on the older side for being a rookie at that. With that being said, you know, you're at $3,900 looking for 19, 20 points out. I'm currently projected for about 25 tonight. Could I have a little bit of upside for more? Could I have a little bit downside for less? Kind of remains to be seen what his role on this team will be going forward and how many minutes he will get on a nightly basis. Then at shooting guard, we're going to go with Alex Caruso, $5,300, looking for 26, 27 points out. Good pace-up spot for the Atlanta Hawks tonight. The one question you just kind of have is whether or not he plays, but if he plays, he's probably going to get big minutes once again. And I do really expect him to play tonight. If he doesn't play, then we could put Ayo Dosunmu in this spot if we really want to as well, who would see, you know, a little bit of a bump up in that situation as well. But for Alex Caruso, currently I'm projected for about 28, 29 fantasy points on DraftKings side tonight. Obviously, it could be a little bit more in this pace-up spot versus the Atlanta Hawks, and especially, you know, if he goes out there and has one of those good Alex Caruso, good steal and block games tonight overall, because that is something he likes to do and could definitely be potential for tonight overall. Then at small forward, we're going to go Denny Advia, $5,900, looking for 29, 30 out of him, averaging 29 on the season so far. I do currently have him projected for 32 fantasy points. He's played extremely big minutes in their two most recent games. He's gone over 40 DraftKings points in both those games. So, you know, a little bit of point chasing here, maybe a little bit of recency bias, but if he's playing those bigger minutes once again, definitely going to be a guy that we want. And, you know, with Daniel Gafford not out there, they are more likely to go small at times. So we'll see whether or not the minutes do ultimately bump up for Marvin Bagley. That could play a factor in a guy like Denny Advia, Bilal Coulibaly, some of these other guys. But if they're going small, once again, Advia is going to be a big beneficiary of that. And like I said, currently I'm projected for 32 fantasy points tonight. And then at the same time, we have Kyle Kuzma, his teammate, right behind him, $7,500. We're looking for 37, 38 out of him. He's averaging 38.5 so far in the season. It's a little bit slower pace matchup versus the Dallas Mavericks tonight, but, you know, the Wizards are going to try to speed things up. Doesn't always mean it's good things for them, but I do like Kuzma once again tonight. Currently, I'm projected for 42 fantasy points. Could I have a little bit upside for more? Could I have a little bit downside for less at the same time as well? And then last but not least, we're going to go with Nikolai Vucevic, who's been playing extremely well as of late, $7,900. Looking for 39, 40 points down. He's averaging 40 so far in the season. Pace-up spot versus the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Once again, no Clint Capella out there, so Onyeka Okongwu, good young player, but he is not the defender that Clint Capella is, so it should be a pretty favorable matchup for Nikolai Vucevic just in general. Currently, I have him projected for about 42 fantasy points tonight. He's definitely a guy that could get more if he's playing anything like he has been as of late, but, you know, he's a guy that could get a little bit less too as well, just kind of depending on how this game does go overall. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $19,500 remaining, $6,500 per player. So looking a little bit more like a balanced build type of day, at least early on. We'll see whether their value does pop up as the day moves along. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So on the FanDuel side, we're going to go with Micic once again. He's $5,200, so quite a bit more expensive on FanDuel. Looking for 26 points out. I currently have him projected for 25, 26. We'll see what the minutes ultimately do end up looking like for him tonight. We'll see, maybe he ends up in that starting lineup if they really feel good about him. Maybe Cody Martin gets ruled out because that's happened at times this season, kind of with the little injuries that he's had. So could be some upside there. It's a decent spot versus the Pacers tonight. Should be a pretty high-paced back-and-forth game between them and the Charlotte Hornets, so could favor a guy like Micic, could favor some of these other Charlotte Hornets as well. But with that being said, currently I'm projected for about 25, 26 tonight. Could have that little bit upside for more, could have some downside for less, obviously, given kind of his new role on this new team overall. And then we move down to shooting guard. We got Alex Caruso once again, $6,200, so he's a little bit more expensive on the FanDuel side. Obviously, you get the extra point for blocks and steals over on FanDuel, so that is a more beneficial site for a guy like Alex Caruso, because when he does have those big games, it's usually on the back of steals and blocks, which definitely gives you a little bit of boost over on FanDuel. Obviously, he does have that questionable tag due to the toe injury, which I don't really take too much into it because he played like 36 minutes in his most recent game. I think that was on Saturday. So definitely do like him once again tonight to play big minutes. It's a pace-up spot versus the Atlanta Hawks. And on the FanDuel side, currently have him projected for about 30 to 31 tonight. Definitely does have some upside for more, especially if he's going out and having one of those big steal and block games once again, and if he's shooting the ball pretty well, which he's been doing for the better part of this season. Then at small forward, we're going with RJ Barrett, $7,500, looking for 37, 38 at him. He's been playing pretty well since he's been with the Raptors. He's outperformed this price tag. I think it's 3 out of his last 4 games since he's been back from injury. I believe it was only the most recent one that he hasn't. Good pace-up spot versus the San Antonio Spurs tonight. Do currently have him projected for 38, 39. Definitely does offer a little bit of upside for more. Has a little bit of downside for less, as we've seen in that most recent game. But feels like a pretty solid, safe, steady play, at least early on today. And then at power forward, we're going to Kyle Kuzma once again. He's $8,000 on FanDuel, so you're looking for at least 40 out of him, averaging 36.5 on the season. It's not the greatest spot in the world, I'll be honest, versus Dallas. They are a little bit slower-paced team. But I do like him quite a bit tonight, especially if this game remains competitive. Do like him for about 42 fantasy points in general. And then last but not least, at the center position, a lot of different options you could go with here. If you want to go with one of Nikolai's, Jokic, or Vucevic, you could do that. They kind of look like the higher-end options today. If Alfred Sengun ultimately does end up playing, he's another option. But ultimately just ended up on John Collins tonight. So $6,600. Definitely a guy you could play a power forward as well. Good pace-up spot versus the Golden State Warriors tonight. He's been in that starting lineup alongside Walker Kessler as of late, kind of going back to that power forward position. But it really hasn't hurt his fantasy production as of late. Been playing pretty decent-sized minutes. Looking for 33 out. Currently, I'm projected for 34 tonight. Definitely could have some upside for more. And then at the same time, he does have some pretty significant downside for less. If he doesn't get the minutes, he gets some foul trouble, something crazy happens like that, or, just has a bad shooting night. But definitely do like that upside that he could potentially have tonight. Obviously, it's a pick that could change as the day moves along, though, as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here on FanDuel, you have $26,500 remaining, just over $6,600 per player. So once again, looking a little bit more like a balanced build type of day. Obviously, if we do have some other values that do open up throughout the day, that could very much change as the day moves along. So definitely make sure you're checking out for my updated core down in the comments as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings for today, February 12th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. I do ask that you please note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then, as always, I will be posting up all the injury updates as they do come out throughout the day down in the comments, as well as the starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the night. And then, as always, my updated core will be listed as a pinned comment down below about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock. If there are any other additional changes after that point in time, I will leave them as a reply to that pinned comment as well. But with that being said, if you're brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we just have NBA DFS going on in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday. But once we get to the end of March, we'll have some MLB DFS going on, and then hopefully some UFL DFS over on DraftKings as well. I'm assuming that they're going to have that this year, but it's definitely exciting to have some spring football. If you are interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match on your initial deposit up to $100. For BetUS, it's 125% match on your initial deposit up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to take advantage of out there if that's something you're interested in getting into. And then with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to that, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.